Good evening from Los Angeles. I'm Jacob Soboroff in for Chris Hayes. We are 258 days away from possibly the most consequential midterm election in American history. And Donald Trump, the aspiring authoritarian in the White House, is desperately looking for ways to turn the math in his party's favor. One way to do that would be to try to add voters to his coalition. The other is to subtract voters from the equation entirely. In fact, you might have caught the Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, last week saying her department was going to help make sure the right people were going to elect the right leaders. And it turns out that is exactly what they are trying to do. New reporting from MS Now tonight says DHS is being deputized to hunt for voter fraud and suppress the vote. We're going to have more on that report in just a moment with the great Carol Leonnig, but it is becoming obvious that Plan A, trying to figure out how to sell voters on MAGA, is not working for them, as Trump's average approval rating has sunk to 41%. That is its lowest point in a year. Last night, with just weeks before the first election primaries, dozens of White House aides, including Trump's chief of staff and his top pollster, gathered for a closed-door midterm strategy session. Sources tell MS Now that in that meeting, officials concluded that the economy will be the top issue, and Trump's historical advantage on immigration was gone. So the Republican plan to add voters to their coalition is to talk about affordability, a word Donald Trump says is made up, and avoid talking about the border, which Trump constantly obsesses about. Just pretend that everything's going great, that the wild scandals enveloping the White House are worth ignoring because the Dow.
None of them ask Merrick Garland over the last 4 years one word about Jeffrey Epstein. How ironic is that? You know why? Because Donald Trump, the Dow right now is over $50,000. I don't know why you're laughing.
I don't know why you're laughing. If that case doesn't sound like it'll convince enough voters, Trump and the Republicans have another strategy. An old favorite of President Trump's, subtracting votes from his political opponents. At his direction, Republicans have started to redraw congressional districts in red states to gerrymander blue seats out of existence. But Democratic states have responded in kind. So now Republicans are pushing a voter suppression bill in Congress. It's called the SAVE Act, and it would mandate proof of citizenship to register to vote, as well as photo ID to vote and to request a mail-in ballot. The bill could make voting a hardship for millions of Americans who live abroad, as well as women and transgender people whose last names do not match their birth certificates. And it would require states to hand over their unredacted voter roll data to the Department of Homeland Security. That bill has already cleared the House of Representatives, but faces an uncertain fate in the Senate. Late last week, Trump posted that if Congress doesn't pass the SAVE Act, he would try unilaterally to make it a law by executive order, saying, quote, "There will be voter ID for the midterm elections, whether approved by Congress or not." So, yeah, he can't do that. But Trump is committed to preventing free and fair elections by any means necessary.
The Republicans should say, we want to take over. We should take over the voting in at least 15 places. The Republicans ought to nationalize the voting. And we have states that are so crooked, and they're counting votes. We have states that I won that show I didn't win.
Ground zero for Trump's effort has been Fulton County, Georgia, the urban locale whose votes cost Donald Trump the state and the election in 2020. Late last month, Trump's FBI raided the Fulton County election office, taking away 700 boxes of ballots from the 2020 election, apparently on the basis of the same false election conspiracy theories that he was spreading back then. Today, the Republican-controlled Georgia State Board of Elections met for the first time since that raid, and just after, Trump shared an article to social media calling for the state to take over Fulton County's elections. They may take up that issue as soon as tomorrow, while Trump is in Georgia for a campaign appearance. This is all a repeat of 2020, of trying to commandeer an election based on gross claims with no evidence to support them. As I found out back then, trying to get details from then Trump campaign proxy and now Trump administration official Rick Grinnell. Hey, Rick Grenell, we're live on MSNBC right now. Can you talk about the evidence? You're claiming thousands of illegitimate votes here in Nevada. What's the evidence?
You should go in and ask the question of the clerk.
No.
Which you haven't done
You guys
yet.
just made the claim. No, in fact, you also said there's no election observers. There's Democratic and Republican election observers inside. And on top of all that, as I mentioned earlier, we now know that the Department of Homeland Security will be playing a role in this year's election, as Kristi Noem let slip last week.
I would say that many people believe that it may be one of the most important things that we need to make sure we trust is reliable, and that when it gets to Election Day that we've been proactive to make sure that we have the right people voting, electing the right leaders to lead this country.